Have you ever felt an exhaustion so deep that sleep doesn't even make a dent? It's not like you just ran a marathon. It's a weariness in your very soul. Today, we're going to bring a really misunderstood topic into the light. What happens when someone loses the will to live after narcissistic abuse? I know it's a heavy subject, but really understanding it, well, that's the first step to healing. So let's dive in. This right here, this is what's called the dance of normalcy. And wow, is it accurate. It's that performance you have to put on every single day, pretending you're okay when inside you're just shattered. It's smiling at the cashier and saying, "I'm fine, thanks," while a part of your brain is literally just wondering how your body is still managing to breathe. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to walk through this together. First, we'll talk about that invisible weight itself. Then, we'll get into the actual biology that explains the silence. After that, we'll look at how the mind tries to protect itself. We'll uncover those hidden wounds. And then, most importantly, we will chart a path back to the light. Okay, first step, the invisible weight. This is really the heart of the whole experience, isn't it? It's this burden that makes you feel completely alone in the world, mostly because, on the outside, everything can look totally fine. Here's the best way to think about it. Imagine you're at a party, the music's playing, everyone's laughing, and you're expected to dance and have a good time. But you are carrying a massive backpack, and it is filled to the brim with heavy rocks. Nobody else can see it, so they don't get why you're struggling to even stand up. They just think, hey, why aren't you dancing? That feeling, that's the daily reality for a survivor. And that heavy backpack creates what's called the fog of invisibility. It's not just feeling sad, it's this deep, core belief that you fundamentally do not matter. An abuser is a master at finding that little crack, that pre-existing wound, and prying it open until it becomes your entire reality. And in that fog, even genuine words of love and support, they just can't get through. For so many, the only tether to this world is their children, which creates this agonizing, guilt-ridden limbo of staying alive for them while feeling completely empty inside. This leads to a really critical question. If the pain is that bad, why is it so incredibly hard for survivors to just reach out for help? As we're about to see, the answer has way less to do with choice and everything to do with our biology, right? This is a question that just stumps so many friends and family members. A simple text, maybe, "Hey, thinking of you, how are you?" And it just sits there unanswered for days. It is so easy to think they're ignoring you, but the science behind this silence is, well, it's pretty mind-blowing and honestly incredibly validating. So, this brings us to a key idea from neuroscience, the dorsal vagal state. Think of it like your body's emergency brake. When your nervous system gets completely overwhelmed by trauma, it just goes into this extreme conservation mode. It starts shutting down anything that isn't absolutely essential for basic survival. And guess what's on that non-essential list? The very complex function of speech. And I want to be crystal clear here. This is not a metaphor. Trauma researchers actually call it speechless terror. So when a survivor is staring at that text message, just totally unable to reply, it's because their brain has literally unplugged the microphone. It is physically impossible to form words when the language centers of your brain have been taken offline. So once we get that this is biological, we can start to reframe that urge to give up. It's not some character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's actually a really misguided attempt by the mind to protect itself from unbearable pain. There's this incredible therapy model called internal family systems, or IFS, and it just completely flips the script on this. Normally, we think of that urge to give up as the enemy, right? Something we have to fight. But IFS says, hold on. What if that part of you isn't an enemy? What if it's a protector that stepped in when every other defense you had failed? This is just a brilliant way to picture it. Imagine you have this fiercely loyal bodyguard who sees a threat coming. Their only goal is to keep you safe, so they grab you and they lock you inside a soundproof panic room. Now, are you safe from the immediate danger outside? Yes. But now you're trapped. You're alone, in agonizing isolation. The intention was protection, but the result is a whole different kind of suffering. So, what is this bodyguard actually protecting the survivor from? What's the danger? Well, we're not just talking about hurt feelings. We are talking about deep, fundamental psychological injuries that no one else can see. And the biggest one of all is what's called existential shame. This is so important to understand. Normal shame is feeling embarrassed by something you did, like you messed up a presentation at work. Existential shame is the core, rotting belief that you are embarrassed by what you are. It's this deep feeling that your very existence is defective, that you are just unworthy of taking up space on this planet. And right alongside that shame, you've got these other deep injuries. You have cognitive dissonance, which is just the sheer mental exhaustion of having your reality constantly denied. There's identity erosion, where you literally forget who you were before all this happened. You've got trauma bonds, which create a biochemical addiction to the person hurting you, making it feel impossible to leave. And all of this leads to complex PTSD, which comes from long-term trauma where there's no escape. And this is why a seemingly minor thing can trigger a complete and catastrophic collapse. When a survivor runs into gaslighting or betrayal or powerlessness, even if it's just from, say, a terrible customer service call, their brain doesn't see it as a small annoyance. It recognizes the pattern. And in a split second, it recreates the exact same neurobiological terror of the original abuse. So after all of that darkness, how in the world do you find your way out of that panic room? Well, the path to healing is very real, and it starts with understanding and getting the right kind of support. Okay, step one is just pure validation. It's finally realizing, oh, this is biology, not a character flaw. From there, specialized therapies like EMDR can actually help the brain reprocess traumatic memories. Then there's somatic healing, which is all about reconnecting with your body, where so much of this trauma gets stored. And then, slowly, one step at a time, you can start the process of reclaiming the identity that got buried. And if you're the one trying to support a loved one through this, the single most powerful thing you can do is just believe them, no questions asked. Please, avoid that toxic positivity, the just look on the bright side stuff. Don't pry for details, just sit with them in the dark. Offer practical, specific help, and let them know that with you, it's a safe place. With you, they can finally take that heavy, invisible backpack off for a while. And for anyone who is carrying this weight right now, I really need you to hear this. Your abuser worked so hard to convince you that you are nothing without them. Their biggest fear was you figuring out the truth, that you are everything without them. Your healing, your journey to rediscover the brilliant, beautiful person they tried so hard to dim, that is the ultimate act of rebellion. That is your victory. You do not have to walk this road alone. If you're in the US and you feel like you just cannot carry that backpack for one more minute, please call or text 988. It is free, it's confidential, and it's available 24/7. Someone is there right now ready to help you carry the weight. And I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. These dynamics, they don't just happen between two people. They exist in systems, at work, in big institutions, even in our societal norms. So I'll ask you this. What happens when you start recognizing these patterns in your daily life? How does simply seeing them for what they are begin to shift the balance of power and put it back where it belongs, in your hands?